I look awful today. I'm drinking from a dog cup. And I was like, you know what? Let's make a YouTube video. Let's just bullshit about the crazy shit I've done with Dragon Ball transformations and why, honestly, it is a game changer. Like, genuinely, being able to make transformations that actually have worked for me and, like, show you guys the progress I've made on it is just insane. So we'll do Super Saiyan, Ultra Instinct, Super Saiyan God, Ultra Ego, and Beast form. I'll explain to you every single form broken down in a simpler way, and kind of the way that I've done it, and the way that I've really just enjoyed doing it. And it really started from the Super Saiyan transformation, where I was realizing that we all have a light body, and tapping into this feeling state of light, and imagining this light ball and expanding it throughout my body, and allowing that to heal my consciousness, allowing that to heal my stomach, and really using that to expand myself. And it's like anytime I would have an overwhelming emotion, I would use that confidence and imagine that light ball just expanding throughout my body. And the more I did that, the easier it got, the more I started to heal. And these higher level feeling states started to come into my life, and it was very interesting. And then I went over to something like Super Saiyan God, because when I first started my journey, it wasn't really, I didn't have guidelines. I had no guidelines. I wasn't following any given path. I just said, okay, well, I'm gonna take Super Saiyan transformations and make them my way of healing and make it fun, because I want it to be fun for me. And Super Saiyan God was actually during like a deep meditation where I think I had like a higher self frequency on, and all of a sudden, like, it was like this overwhelming state of like love for myself came through, and I imagined like this chamber around me and light just expanding off my body, and I imagined a switch and it was just flipped on, and all of a sudden, like, it was energy that I was being given, and the energy was just so intense I just like couldn't contain it. It had to be switched off. And I did this like 3 times. I imagined the light flipping on and flipping off, and each time it was like I was literally in one of those like God chambers that Goku and Vegeta had to go into. And it was so cool realizing that it was basically like me tapping into my higher self energy and this ability to create my own ki and call in my own ki. I was able to finally, like, after the switch flipped on and off, realize that the next time I flipped on the switch, it wasn't coming from an outside source, it was coming from within. And things got really intense after that. I had to really realize where my energy was going. So for Super Saiyan God, it really comes down to the idea that wherever you look is kind of like an energy leak. So if you're searching outside of yourself, it kind of becomes this thing that can become an energy leak. If I'm constantly looking for food, when I go into a grocery store, I'm gonna want that. And it's like, that's when you realize the energy leak that you're constantly having. And if you're not conscious of this, you're gonna be drained by the end of the day, especially if you're an empath or a spiritually tapped in person or someone who gets drained easily. And it really comes from coming back from within. What's your main intention? And you just go, okay, I see you, I see you, I see that desire, I see this desire, I see the ability to pull this in and call this in, but I have to be the frequency of the thing I want to call it in. And then you go on to Ultra Instinct, where things get really just out of this world. I was doing a lot of work in identity shifting in this time frame, and I was really just going through it. I decided to get like deep into breath work and meditation, and this is when I realized that our identity is very fluid, and you could literally switch identities just based off releasing the thoughts in your mind. And I got to the point where I was playing hemi-syncs every day, and hemi-sync basically syncs up your left brain and your right brain so that you could move fluidly and take action fluidly without really having to rely so much on thought. And through these Ultra Instinct concepts, I mean, it really was just insane. Like, I was cooking intuitively, and like I would be like, okay, I want this meal, I have this meal in mind, I don't know how to cook it. And through these practices, through the Ultra Instinct practices of like hemi-sync, meditation, breath work, I would cook like amazing meals that I didn't know how to cook, just intuitively, without thought, without like reading some guide. And then, okay, it gets crazier where I would like envision somewhere I had to go. So if, say, I had to drive to, I don't know, somewhere to get like tea, just an example. I didn't know how to get there. I knew the place, and I had the place in mind that like I've already been before, and I never actually like drove there without the maps. I think it was like a 40-minute drive. I would envision that spot where I'm going, and be able to drive there just by focusing on my breath the whole time. This really comes down to, like, if you actually want like a basic and simple way to do something like this, it comes down to just going and moving, because your thoughts, your mind, it's like if you're trying to plan everything out, nothing ever really flows the way you want to. But when you start living life as it's automatic, just like your breath, that's when you can start doing things that you actually want to do. And that's when you realize that everything can be automated to a point that you just enjoy life. And that's kind of where Ultra Instinct concept comes in, where if you're breathing through all these different things, if you're breathing through something you're uncomfortable with, if you're breathing through chasing your dreams, if you're breathing through anything, like genuinely anything you want to automate and focusing on your breath, you are becoming Ultra Instinct, because you are realizing that this isn't what's creating it. You're just taking the action, you know? And if you just actually get up and do the thing you want to do, like right in the morning, instead of just like sitting in bed, scrolling on your phone, you just get up and go and do the first thing. You start realizing the universal consciousness where you'll be putting in your clothes in the laundry, and then you'll get an idea. You're like, oh, well, I have to do this. I have to, I don't know, make myself breakfast. And then you'll be making yourself breakfast, and you're like, well, I'm going to shower. And then while you're in the shower, you're like, I want to go out and get a coffee. That's the universal consciousness. Like every time that you take a step, you're given the next step, no matter what. So that's the kind of idea how it works too, where you're not just tapped in from within, you're tapped in for the micro and the macro. When it comes down to beast form and these different states that Gohan is able to transform into, he is able to do it through this just pure love of life. So if you could tell in Super Saiyan 2, it's like he just can't take it anymore. He can't take sitting back. And this is like his solar plexus really coming online, which is the basis of Super Saiyan transformations. But for Gohan, it's different, because he's able to tap into his heart chakra, his higher heart, and really focus on the rage within. This like divine rage where I feel trapped. I can't do anything. I can't take the action. But once you realize that power was always within, that you are a really powerful person, you can like create a switch. And I like to think of it like thinking about all of the past things that, say, you felt wronged, or a past emotion that really just pulls out a lot in you. And right before like you're about to really just like pop, you could even do this, like, say if you're in traffic and you're really pissed and like you're throwing out energy, you know, every time you're stressed at this or pissed off at this. And instead you're just keeping this energy in every time. You just go back within. And of course, after a while, that energy is going to want to come out. And instead of doing the thing like Broly would do and losing your temper, you're going to create a funnel in your heart, and you're going to imagine your heart transforming all of that energy. So say the future, you see the dream that you want, you pour it all into that dream. You're creating a timeline. And you know, you can do this when you're having a panic attack. You could do this when you're like at a very low state. Instead of like pouring all this energy where everything's not working out, because of course it's gonna feel like that. And there's so many times where I've done this, where I'll be at my lowest state, so angry, so depressed, so stressed. And instead of just like allowing that energy to just go to waste, I'm envisioning my future. I'm envisioning all of the amazing things, and like literally crying and yelling or doing whatever, and imagining that energy pouring into this new person that I'm becoming. And you basically bridge this timeline of who you are now and who you're becoming, instead of crying into the old person that you used to be, that you are a fuck up. Instead, say, no, I deserve better things. And I'm pouring all of this energy into my new timeline. And the Beast Gohan transformation could come from a really low state, like the Super Saiyan 2, or it could come from creating it within right now. You know, imagining the emotion right before you're about to pop, just pulling all that energy right now that's all stored throughout your body always, and transforming it into what you want to do. Ultra Ego is also kind of crazy, because it's really realizing that our reality is based off of truth And when you don't accept the truth of your reality, of your ego, you are going to create a lot of distortion for yourself. So Vegeta, although it might not be clear, he has had a lot of ego deaths. So Dark Night of the Soul, ego death, when I used to make Instagram videos or Instagram reels about this, everyone's like, his ego didn't die. Like, this is not how it works. Vegeta's ego didn't die. And I'm like, dude, that's not what an ego death is. When your ego dies, it's like almost a little part of you that was so dead set on like the negative thing kind of is released. That darkness gets shown at expanded senses of light. Like, okay, so say when you have an ego death, you have your Dark Night of the Soul, when your ego is literally on the breaking point of, and it feels like you're dying, basically. This is how it feels. Your soul is shining the brightest. So light is expanding so bright within you that the darkest parts of you will be shown. So no matter what, it's going to be very intense. You know, when Vegeta first got Super Saiyan, when Vegeta committed death to save everybody from Majin Buu because his ego took forth the battle, and his soul won, of course. And you think about like Vegeta's ego deaths, like when the first time he got Super Saiyan, you know, he was very humbled. It might not seem like it because his ego is like, oh, well, I'm Super Saiyan now, but he was able to marry Bulma, he was able to have kids, like he got a pure heart through this, because his ego, you might be thinking like, okay, well, when you're having an ego death, I'm gonna be this altruistic person who's really good. No, like, it's gonna shine light on that darkest part of yourself. And when you come out, you're still gonna be in that state kind of, because you're learning, but you're humbled. You're humbled no matter what. That humbleness is never gone. It's like that huge lesson that your soul just brought forth to you. And Ultra Ego is Vegeta's like transformation in this. It's realizing that chaos, destruction is really just another form of truth. And that's why like these beings like Thanos or Beerus are able to just destroy, because they understand that their truth, their chaos, their destruction is what creates order in the reality. If there's no truth, if there's no order, if there's no destruction, then you're not able to guide humanity, guide the universe on a path. There's just there's no balance there. So to have truth within is to really know that like your ego needs to be humbled. Your ego needs to be set aside. And that's why like the emotions, your desires, your intentions are really trapped until you fully accept that. Vegeta was able to reach Ultra Ego because he had to do spiritual work. Like he went to Yardrat, he went to like deep within and understood that, okay, wait, I can still have these desires of being like the strongest person. Or like Goku for Ultra Instinct, like he had to give up himself basically to become like the angel, the Ultra Instinct. It was like a lot about like understanding that he's fully tapped into the universe and that he can't be thinking up here. He has to be moving with his body without thought. You know, when he had his game changer moment, Goku, it was like this idea that he needed to save everybody. It was his duty. And for Vegeta, it's more of like, well, this is something I want. This is something I desire. But to get what I desire, I have to give up what I desire. I have to give up parts of myself. And Vegeta really understood this, that his ego had to be fully in line with truth. And once you do this, your desires, they don't hold power over you anymore. When you have a desire, just like Super Saiyan God, you focus on within, and you have, okay, so you have this immense feeling that smashes you in the face. You don't feel anything because your ego is humbled, and you can focus on the truth the whole time. Just as when Granola punches Vegeta in the face, it's like this immense amount of feeling. You would be able to feel that. But Vegeta, that's more energy, that's more anger, that's more power. And Vegeta basically becomes this walking energy transmutation where every time he gets hit, he gets more strength, because that's more energy, more emotion, and more raw power for him to output. And he just becomes walking transmutation. And I really think that's why he's purple. It's like the violet flame within, and he's able to transmute all of this energy in such a powerful way. Anyways, I will leave the video there. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful, gorgeous day. Peace.